Blood Warlock, Succubus Partner in the Apocalypse. Chapter 26 Sex Machine. The real reason why Xietain did not feel that such an achievement was a big deal was mainly because he was only evolving an unclassified to first-order skill. It was not as if he was evolving a particularly powerful skill by any stretch of the imagination. Furthermore, while it was true that Xieitain's stamina had reached 125 natural points without external support, the reality was that almost half of those points came from the elephant skin skill itself. Of course, even with all the aforementioned, the fact that he could achieve so many stamina enhancements in just over 2 days was the real achievement. Lilith had never met or heard of another existence capable of improving so quickly. With a single thought, the elephant skin skill began to evolve. The dull gray rune that was engraved deep within Xieitain's soul lit up. Countless flashes of lightning flickered from deep within him, and his entire body began to heat up as a strange tickle-like but not so unbearable feeling was transmitted through every millimeter of his skin. After several minutes, the lightning flashing inside his body receded and was absorbed by the rune from which it came before. However, the once dull gray rune had now become a deep bronze rune. Elephant skin, unclassified passive skill, level 5 bronze skin, first order passive skill, level 1. Bronze skin, first order passive skill, level 1, your skin becomes much tougher than that of any living being on Earth before the awakening of mana. Increases stamina, plus 100 points. Xietain was grinning from ear to ear as he looked at his 180 total stamina points. He could feel practically unlimited energy from his body, and the feeling of becoming stronger once again excited him to the point of forgetting about his injuries. You should be careful now that you have such monstrous stamina, Lilith said out of nowhere, dragging Xietain out of his daydream. What? Why? He looked at her with some alarm. Could it be that there was really something bad? Maybe it was because his stats were a little off balance? After all, Xieitain's stamina stat was his current highest physical stat, and by a wide margin. Maybe the body needed to balance itself somehow? Lilith looked at him with a serious expression and slowly said, well, your current stamina is almost 20 times higher than that of a normal man and woman. Imagine what would happen if you suddenly decided to unleash your libido wildly on a woman's body. The poor girl would probably be devastated. Xieitain's face rotted when he heard her words. She thought he was a sex machine or something like that. With his face as black as coal, Xietain gritted his teeth and bellowed, I swear I'll kick your ass someday. Ha ha ha. Seeing him gritting his teeth and looking at her as if he wanted to bite her to death, Lilith felt so amused that she started to laugh out loud. This was the first time she thought that a lower existence was so interesting. 3 days later, the 6th day since the mana was awakened by the soul record. During these 3 days, Xietain did not leave the cafeteria and closed the door firmly, isolating himself from the rest of the people. Except for eating and drinking, Xieitain's only entertainment was chatting with the beautiful and charming succubus Lilith. Fortunately, due to constant evolutions, his digestive system was no longer as problematic as that of a normal person. In this time, he focused on recovering from his injuries without doing anything else. In addition, to avoid any kind of trouble, Xietain had talked to Chen He and asked him to take all the food out of the cafeteria, leaving only what he needed for himself and a bit for emergencies. This way, he did not have to be in contact with people he did not know and did not trust while he was still injured. Xietain stood up and stomped on the ground several times as if checking something. The wounds on my feet and legs healed completely. He nodded in satisfaction and relief. Now, even if a second monster similar to the first-order blazing beetle appeared, he was confident that at least his chances of victory weren't practically non-existent like when he was injured and unable to move. The only problem was that his left wrist was still broken. However, he only needed to use his right hand to wield the Xianyuan sword, so he was temporarily fine. Xietain estimated that he would need at least another 7 days for his wrist bones to fully recover. Although 7 days was quite a long time and his strength would be affected as a result of not being able to use both hands at the same time, this result was already good enough considering that in normal cases a person would need 2 to 3 months to recover from a bone fracture. Let's see how things are going outside. Besides, I have a debt to pay. His eyes flashed coldly as he opened the cafeteria door for the first time in 3 days. When you act mad you look hot. Lilith, as beautiful and charming as ever, walked behind him as if she was his shadow. Unlike 3 days ago, the mood inside the gymnasium had not improved in any way. On the contrary, the hope of many students and teachers began to flicker. The cold and fever medicines that Bai Zemin had obtained from the pharmacy had already been distributed by Shangguan Bingshui and the help of other teachers. Therefore, those who were sick had improved a lot, and those who were about to get sick were able to avoid illness successfully. Each one of the survivors had been well fed and, while it was true that the food was no longer as luxurious or extravagant as in the past, at least all of them were able to have 3 meals a day without fail. However, even under such conditions countless times more luxurious than that of who knew how many people who at the moment could only hide in some dark corner without food, the hope of all the survivors in the gym was shaken. The reason? They, who were waiting for the arrival of the military army or, at the very least, the support of the police forces, had not yet even heard the sound of a siren. In the gymnasium, there was also a big screen, but there was no news and all the channels were dead. As for the radio, it had also collapsed as well as the phone signal. Bai Zemin caught the erratic eyes of the people, and when they saw him appear walking some sighed in relief that the group's strength was rising while others had no apparent reaction. However, the most surprised of them was Shangguan Bingshui. She looked at him and her beautiful blue eyes had a strange glint in them. "Are your wounds okay now?" she asked with clear surprise in her usually indifferent voice. This shocked Chen He to the marrow of his bones, and his eyes widened in astonishment. In fact, his surprise was no less than when the Soul Record displayed his status window the first time. She was worried about him? But how could such a thing be possible? Didn't they just meet? Didn't they dislike each other? Chen He's head was full of unanswered questions. While the handsome Chen He looked at Shangguan Bingshui with surprise and Bai Zemin with caution, he actually did not know that the reason she asked that question was not that she cared about him, it was because she had seen how severe the burns on his feet were. With such dreadful burns, Shangguan Bingshui had figured that it would at least take him 2 months to walk completely naturally again. After all, Bai Zemin's level was obviously not low. Although he had not said anything and she had not asked, Shangguan Bingshui was almost 100% sure that that 3-meter-tall beetle had been killed by him. A person capable of killing such a hideous monster could not have a low level. However, what Shangguan Bingshui did not expect was that only 4 days later, Bai Zemin would appear again as if his previous wounds had never existed. What kind of immortal monster was this?